Can you guys hear me?
We can get started now. Vu just mentioned Dr.
I
Huang.
can't hear you, Dr. O'Donnell. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Hold on one second. All right. Sorry, it helps if you turn your speaker on.
Okay. So I was just saying, many of our attendees could not attend today. Professor Huang, Dr. Tu, Tam could not attend, but Vu is here, and she has talked to Dr. Huang about some questions we can discuss with her briefly.
Okay.
I have some questions to raise for the group also. I'm recording now, so I can pass it on to those who did not attend tonight.
Sure.
We try to meet later in the week.
Yeah, and I can.
Available.
Yeah, I can still send out all the documents, and then when we meet later in the week, we can take questions on them.
Great. So, Vu, do you want to talk about any questions you have from discussing with Dr.?
Actually, we no, not really question, but we just to have some comment for because we read from the document you mentioned about the community, so we should to definition. So which community we try to do this research in the city, or in the rural, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the second question, because here is a research, so we should know how big the sample size, or
yes.
how many the people going to attend the research. We should to how to say, we need to have exactly how how much, how many the sample size in our research.
Okay.
And the third question, because I saw you mentioned in our document about wanted to reduce the time in the hospital, reduce the cost, and much higher in the quality of life. But in the evaluation, I only see about evaluation of the cost. So I'm not understand. I'm not really understand about it.
Okay, those are all good questions. I can answer all those, and Jen can help with some of them too. So let me take it from your first question.
Yes.
For the community,
yes,
we can choose between urban and rural. The advantage of choosing urban only is that we're doing a smartphone intervention. So we know that in most Asian countries, people who are urban have more commonly own and operate smartphones and have better access to Wi-Fi to use the phones. In rural areas, I know the use is often less and the difficulty of Wi-Fi is often greater. So that's the advantage of our urban area. If we can do urban and rural, that's a stronger design for the study, right? So from the grant reviewer, if we're covering both, it gives the study more power. So we need to decide, is a rural population, is it feasible? Can we make sure we incorporate them into our treatment? I will also add, we know in Asia, most care is hospital-based. People go to the big hospitals, not to the rural health centers for most of their care. So how does that figure into your question also? Let me stop for a second. Are those answers clear to you? We need more. We need to discuss more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Any opinion from your side about rural or urban?
Ơi, chị mượn cái chìa khóa để mở cái phòng này.
I'll keep on going. For the sample size, once we finalize our population, right now we're looking at adults with type 2 diabetes and hypertension.
Yes.
We can then look at the actual prevalence. How many patients are there in the hospital or community? And based on the prevalence, we can do a statistical analysis for the power we'll need to do a good study. You want to add more detail about that, Jen?
No, I think that it's probably similar to the power and sample size I did before, right?
Yep.
We can probably just modify it.
Yeah. So we'll have Jen help with the power analysis and the sample size determination once we identify the exact population. And for the last part, we need to add some more detail to the draft I sent you. I did not finish all of the assessment measures. That's why there wasn't anything else in there about cost of care. So I'll work on adding that, as well as some more measures. I just made the first run of the key measures in the health risk assessment. We can add some more as we work towards our final draft. So you'll see more detail as we finish our work on that draft. Any other questions from the Vietnam end? Any more questions, Vu?
Until now, I only have 3 questions.
Okay. I have some questions I wanted to raise, and you can take them back to your team, and of course, I'll type them out when we finish talking. I've been over the application again, and to strengthen our proposal, we should make sure we try and match all the areas identified as important in the application. And one of the first is looking at chronic disease across the lifespan. So we should certainly try to address at least young adult, middle age, and older adult. I'm sure that population is available. And talk about comparing differences between those different age groups, younger adult, middle adult, and elderly. I don't know if we have the ability to address children, adolescents. That probably is too much for us to try and tackle, but we can question that among our team. So one is just the age distribution and making sure we address that for the grant application. The other question I had was they're looking for any kind of injury in addition to NCDs. And they define injury very broadly. One is simply infectious disease. So I would ask the Vietnam colleagues, are there any common infectious diseases either in the city or in rural areas we should try and also study, whether it's malaria, other kind of infectious disease, HIV/AIDS certainly can be qualified as an infectious disease. We should talk about adding that as an additional analysis variable in our study, I think. I need help from you, which are the most common, so we don't pick ones that are very rare. So infectious disease is one. Another would be, are they counting any of the adverse consequences of chronic disease? So are they talking about blindness, retinopathy from diabetes? Are they talking about amputations from diabetes? I'm not sure about that. I can ask the reviewer for the grant about those questions. The same thing for hypertension. Are they talking about stroke, other kind of heart attack, those kind of problems? Certainly any kind of injury, trauma, auto accidents, home accidents, farming accidents would all qualify as injury. So we should probably think about how to address all of these or some of these in our grant. It won't be horrible. We could still say our main population is type 2 diabetes and hypertension, and we'll subdivide over the course of our study who has injuries, who has infectious disease, who acquires or has HIV/AIDS, and do some sub-analyses based on that. What do you think? Anybody? Any questions or additional thoughts?
Dr. O'Donnell, I was just thinking that if we were looking at a subpopulation for injury, I definitely would think that the automobile accidents would be a very good, like in terms of injury to look at.
I agree, given the high prevalence of auto.
Very high prevalence. And it really does, even while I was there, the impact is huge. I would hear about that happening and see it happening, and so.
Out of curiosity, what drives that? Just like the sheer volume of people on the roads?
So it's the volume, and then there's also the safety factor in terms of head injury, and they've actually, it was interesting because there were two physicians there that were helping with wound care, and they were talking about how they had seen some increase in safety measures, but that that there was a bigger issue that people would purchase helmets, but they were merely
Decorative.
decorative. Yes. They were for appearances only, but not necessarily protective. So it's just a really, really bad issue.
And it's very common then to see, an entire family riding on a motorbike together, mother, 2 or 3 kids, infants, without helmets. It's just very common. So it's
Very, very
not
common.
surprising.
Very common.
So just kind of like it was when I was growing up, we didn't have to wear helmets here. So just roll down the street.
Well,
The volume is so much greater there, traffic.
Yeah.
yes. I mean, so like if you even just YouTube, like the YouTube video, you would see kind of what the traffic is like, and then imagine that with no helmets, or helmets that didn't necessarily work even if you had them. So not that that provides much protection, but.
Other questions? Those are the main things I wanted to cover today in this meeting. I also want to add that I've been emailing in a separate email Dr. Huang, V-U-O-N-G, and Dr. Huang is on that list, so he may join this group also. I need to coordinate how we're going to have him join our group and the credentials. Now, one thing I want to take a few minutes for right now is to have Jen talk about our next step of having the different forms required for the Fogarty grant. They're the same kind of forms required for NIH. So she'll be sending out some emails after this this meeting this week and giving all the key players the kind of forms we need to collect relatively quickly to be successful in this grant. They include things people are probably familiar with, like a bio sketch. Some that are much more challenging, like budget forms, forms for the clinical sites we choose. We need to document those. So a lot of work we have to do on that, in addition to the research strategy document being written up. Do you want to talk about that at all, Jen, or share a screen or anything?
Yeah, give me 1 second and let me pull up a couple of the main documents.
I'll make you a co-host. I think you can share.
I try to organize all my files this week, and now I don't remember where I organized everything to. All right. So there are a few forms, as Dr. O'Donnell was explaining. One of them is a senior and key person, like a personnel form, which is, just kind of like basic information about each senior key person. And what I'll be doing is sending out each of these forms to each person that we need them from, but also with examples so that you can hopefully kind of follow along. And I hope as well that this information is something that's readily available. Things like this one are just relatively basic. The bio sketch, though, it might be best just to take a look through. Should we just look through yours, Dr. O'Donnell, if I can find it? Let me find.
And for some of the forms, we'll try to attach examples from other research grants because they seem very complicated. Once you see an actual completed one, many fields are not filled out, so it's not as bad as it looks.
Yeah, it becomes a lot easier.
We should try a similar application, maybe Thailand, and use one of those, or Singapore, Jen, to give examples for the more difficult forms.
I know I had that one open. Oh, here it is. Let me share this because this will show like the budget and everything. So this is one of the previous forms. This was Matt's completed one. So I'm going to go up here to where the bio sketches are. I think,
Very first page, typically.
yeah, so this is Matt's. And yours is in here as well, right?
Should be.
Were you the main PI?
I think Matt and I were co-PI.
Yeah. So well, here's an example. So it kind of goes in different parts. There's, you know, kind of the basic information that we already looked at for this senior and key personnel. And then, let's see, all the co-investigators. And then, okay. And then we get to the bio sketches. So a biographical sketch is really, you know, start with relevant degrees, positions, other experiences, any honors that have been received, and then contributions to science. So I think like with Matt and with yours, Dr. O'Donnell, they're really good examples of what they're looking for. So contributions, particularly as related to the types of things that we're submitting for. And then like there's also like this kind of like personal interest statement that Matt, Dr. Booman included here. And then ongoing support is where any current grants would be placed. Completed research. So it kind of feels like a lot of information, but I'm hoping that with the CV, most of these pieces can be pulled from it for each of you. So
The biographical sketch typically is like just a few pages that you fill out for this grant. The rest is simply adding your CV to it.
right. Yeah. So in the actual form, I will include for you to be able to fill out. And then the budget, I think the biggest, the most helpful thing anyway is going to be the budget justification, which, because from there we can actually pull out the pieces of each. So budget justification is going to be salaries for the senior personnel, travel, graduate assistants, supplies, any technology, and so forth and so on. So here it's really nicely laid out where there's every line item for each person, community healthcare workers, domestic and foreign travel, the years of travel. So I would say that the bio sketch and the budget will probably be the two most labor intensive. And the budget is critical so that we don't have a lot of kind of like questions back and forth at the last minute trying to get it submitted. So I like this example because there's lots of technology pieces, there's lots of personnel, there's travel, translation, patient compensation. So I can't really think of anything outside of this example that we would need. So would you agree, Dr. O'Donnell?
I think that's fine, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what the other big pieces are. And again, I'll be sending out like a package for each person so that you guys don't have to worry about trying to figure out what pieces and parts you need. Dr. O'Donnell, you're working on the research strategy, right?
Yeah, I sent a draft out from 2 weeks ago. I need to update that now for this.
Okay.
That was for the mHealth grant we wanted to apply for and changed our mind, but it's the same, almost exact same intervention.
Right. Okay. Oh, and I think the one thing was this what was, oh, the DUNS number? Did we verify that they have one of those?
I'm sure at least 2 of our partners, if not all of them, will click on that. And then
Okay.
we actually verified they have one through Hanoi Medical University. Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I think that that's really about it, is the biosketch, the budget justification are the 2 main pieces that I'll need from everybody. Oh, and a letter of support. The letters of support are in here as well, to use as an example, which is really just, it seems like 2 or 3 paragraphs about what's interesting about this project, why you want to support it, and what you think it, like its contribution to furthering our efforts in Southeast Asia.
We have some samples of those too. We can send out templates.
Yep, absolutely. Site descriptions, do we already have those, Dr. O'Donnell?
No, we have to figure out our sites, and that's the conversation today. Will it be urban sites, hospital, rural, and urban? We need to decide pretty quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
For those listening, I'll summarize by email. Typically, rural sites are more difficult. Might be urban for convenience. But we'll decide when we get closer.
Okay. I think that's all I really have. I think the examples make it easier to see than, scrolling through this document that feels kind of overwhelming. So.
All right. So thanks all for your help. We can end the meeting right now. I'll save a recording and send it out, plus some written minutes. I'll try and have us meet later in the week, maybe the same time, one of the morning times in Vietnam, and try and get the entire team together. So I'll work on that by email over the next day and see if we can meet again soon. And meanwhile, work on these documents before that meeting so we can have questions about the forms answered during the meeting. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for helping out. Say hi to Dr. Huang from us. We missed her, and we'll talk to her next time.